Hello, this is Brian Hegney. Welcome to week 12. I am your instructor of game and interactive media design, but specifically, as I say that, I realize I am your COM 1112 professor in the School of Communication. First thing you'll notice that says 00 because this is an afterthought, because I realized as I was reading all of your blog posts for the amazing mashup videos. By the way, this is the highest turnout of some of my favorite mashup videos. I didn't think you all would spend the time to do it. I don't know if that's because you feel less secure in doing the work, being away from the classroom, and so maybe you're more motivated to do the work. Maybe you're just better students than any students in the past. But I saw more original content, fun content, more use of the software this semester when you guys have been gone um, than I've ever seen before. And actually more buy-in is what I've actually been seeing. So I don't know if that's just been really interesting and for me to evaluate. But yeah, so I was really happy with that. But one thing I wanted to cover a little bit, something I usually cover in classroom, is really a blurb about fair use. I had you guys watch the video. This will be on an upcoming quiz, and I started reading a lot of your responses as to why you think this is fair use, and so this is good to get this out of the way. Is why essentially is this work fair use? And so, whoops, let me just click on here. There we go. These are just some of the things I saw repeated kind of throughout the blog posts. Um, and some of them are not quite true, some of them are slightly incorrect. They're according to the video I gave you for the code of best practices. So not necessarily how do I legally do fair use. Um, it's more of a code of best practices for online video. That was the video I sent to you. There were three main issues, and those were that your work has to be transformative. It has to transform the meaning, the use of the media that you're using. It has to be proportional. That means the amount of time that you use for a certain piece of media. And then, of course, the third one was to always give credit. I have to say, speaking with Dr. Dean Smith here at HPU, who is way into freedom of speech and fair use laws. He's the guy to talk to who is the legal expert. But he says, you don't even have to give credit. That's just the code of conduct, how you behave nicely. If you want to behave nicely, give credit. But as long as your work is transformative and proportional, it actually falls under fair use. But still, we should give credit. So I want to touch on each of these as we kind of go along. So the first one on the top left, it is not a clone of the copyrighted work, but it's been edited. Yes, that's true to a sense. The fact that it's not a clone, I think that student is suggesting they transformed the content. They transformed the message, the media. So when you see like a horror movie that's been reclipped, even if it uses the audio of the horror movie, maybe they make a 2-hour movie from a 2-hour horror movie. And instead, they use only the content from the exact horror movie, but they turn it into a comedy, right? That's transformative. That is something that did not exist before, and that could potentially fall under fair use. Is it proportional? Now, this is where it gets dicey, because what does that word mean? Well, they don't take original content from the movie, or this is the question. Do you take like the full movie is obviously not proportional, but a small clip is proportional. It is a much smaller version of the longer clip. And so let's say you take that. Well, for instance, the Negativland video I showed you that did a full song from Favorite Things. They transformed that song and they were had really tiny little edits to build a completely new song. So proportionality there is the amount that they used per clip was so tiny. And of course, they did credit it. So this first one on the top left, well, it's not a clone. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's been transformative. And just because you've edited it doesn't mean it is proportional in its scope. Okay? Not making any profit. Now, I kind of mentioned that in one of my lectures, I think online. I believe I might have, because I'm trying to ground what we're doing. And just because you're not making any money doesn't mean that someone could stop you from using the Nike logo on your work, right? Let's say you just put Nike's logo on t-shirts that you're giving out to the homeless. Nike can stop you from doing that, right? That's not fair use of your work. Or let's say you put, let's say you have a not-for-profit, and think of something political you can make a not-for-profit on, and you're going to use a song, right? And let's say you put that on the internet, and that song is now associated with you. Just because you're not making a profit doesn't mean you can't get takedown notices for a copyright violation. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's fair use. All right, so the not-profit thing is an issue. Now, because I'm a student, to the next one to the right, again, we can do a lot because we're students and we're educators. Just because you're a student, though, doesn't mean you can necessarily do anything you want. If you turn it into me, yes. If you start putting things on public places like YouTube, well, you could still get a takedown notice. Again, YouTube is a public marketplace of stuff, right? So just because you're a student doesn't mean you can use a full video of LA Law. I don't know why I said LA Law. What was I thinking of? Like NCIS? Oh, what are those? CSI? I don't know. CSI Miami, let's say. And you can't post that on your YouTube page because YouTube is, the world can access it. So just because you're a student doesn't mean you can do anything you want with the media. You do have, you're obviously not going to get sued for making a student project using content. But the moment you start putting it out in public on public things like YouTube, now that's where it gets a little dicey. Down at the bottom, both the audio and visual have been altered from its original format. Again, the question is it transformative and is it proportional? Those are the two questions. Just because you edit something doesn't mean you've completely transformed it. Some of you took some videos and just put different, let's say, different musical background to it. Doesn't necessarily transform the original, unless you specifically transform it. Okay, I gave the original trailer credit at the end. Again, is the video that you did transformative and proportional in your use of their own media? That is the ultimate question. Most of these continue on. I only use short clips from the trailer. Actually, that's kind of good. That represents proportionality. Good, I only use short clips. And again, if you have a show where you critique movies, that's exactly why that proportionality concept is here, because we should be able to have a critique show. Freedom of speech. I'm going to have a show where I critique movies, and I'm going to be able to use clips from that movie, because I'm only going to show a small proportion of that movie, not an entire hour. Again, giving credit to the original owners and you link to the video doesn't necessarily mean that the owner is gonna let you use it. I run into that a lot. I follow a lot of artists on Twitter, a lot of musicians on Twitter, and often this is something they talk about. People use their songs on videos and don't credit them, and when they find out, it's like, no, I don't want you using my audio for your video that I don't believe in. Not fair use unless you use a tiny portion and you're using it for transformative purposes. Top right, because all content is from the media. That was from a funny clip of political gaffes from somebody. And yes, all the content was from the media. Here's the thing, though. It's not fair use for me to say, because Chris Cuomo has his show on CNN, I can just rebroadcast it on my own YouTube channel. I can only do that if it's proportional. So the person who like did the gaffes from Joe Biden, yeah, you can make those videos all day long. Those are proportional and they're kind of transformative in a way. They're not the original meaning of the original videos, and it's only taking small little portions of that. Now, I guess where you could get in trouble if you take too small of a content and you're pretending to be news, maybe that's unethical if you're actually altering what people say. As long as as long as you're being ethical in your use of media. Use the video solely for learning purposes. That's actually, I can see why that person's doing this, but actually, if it's solely for learning purposes, um, yeah, is that fair use? Okay, it's a little vague, and I'd like to hear more about this. Right, I want to make sure that you're really getting the fact that it's transformative and it's proportional. And then, of course, you have no intention of selling your video to make money. Similar to the other stuff, is that it's not just about whether you make money. It is someone else's work that you're using. So, is it transformative in nature? And do you only take a small proportion of it? And of course, the credit. So that's my blurb, my long blurb on fair use. Transformative in nature, right? Movie mashups completely change both the audio and the video content. Proportional in nature, only taking a small bit of things, right? Because if you use a full song of Miley Cyrus, that's not proportional, even though you transform the video portion of your project. And then, of course, giving credit is just being a nice person. All right, that's it. The next of the videos talk about the next step in our project, which is getting into Premiere to create still image video. I hope you had fun. Bye!